Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this exclusive interview with a versatile, high-energy professional whose experience in greenfield projects. He's been a part of manufacturing companies and helped in establishing appropriate processes in creating or improving transparency in business activities. Ladies and gentlemen, a prolific author and a very, very humble human being. Please allow me to welcome and introduce Mr. Jogendra Singh, President for Finance with the Hero Corporate Services Group. Ladies and gentlemen, this interview is going to be split across two parts. Let's watch part one. Hello, everybody. We have with us Mr. Jogendra Singh, who's President for Finance with Hero Corporate Service, and he's graciously accepted to do this interview with us. Thank you very much, Mr. Singh.
Thank you, Kanchi.
Mr. Singh, we've all been we've looked up to all your inputs that we've received across the books that you've written or the articles that you do, the blogs that you share, and of course your inputs to different discussions that we've seen over the years. So continuation to the kind of thoughts and inputs that we've received from you, I would like to pose my first question, which is, we've seen that digitization has become a realistic goal for CFOs, and we've seen that their teams have, remained highly relevant, especially in the light of pressing need to react quickly. In your opinion, how would you define the digital CFO of today?
Okay, so thank you very much for this opportunity. You see, as far as digitalization is concerned, we have all seen in the last few years the kind of digital disruption that is taking place, and there's no hiding from digital, disruption. What I am trying to look at is that today I think there is a need to go beyond this also now and look at this digital disruption or digitalization in the light of business challenges. So we go beyond our finance portfolio and look at it not as a finance activity, but as a business activity and business challenges. And more than business challenges, I would say that you should look at this as a business opportunity as well. You have to look at both, sides of challenges as well as opportunities. And then you have to really try and look at how do you build a business digital enterprise, and then focus on the digital transformation with that goal and end in mind. So you start with a purpose. So you have to understand what is the purpose, and for that higher purpose, which is the business, how do you look at business challenges and how do you look at business opportunities? Today, this has become more of an existential question. So therefore, you can't shut your eyes, from this. So what is very important for CFOs to look at this? There are certain areas in my mind that, CFOs today in the digital age, all digital leaders for that matter, will have to really look at. So one, you have to accelerate the digital enterprise, as we say. So we look at what are these strategies, your business digital strategies, and how do they align with the business outcomes. So you have to enable pivots for the new products, new opportunities, new business models. This digital transformation has actually given you a wonderful opportunity to create some new business models, very lean business models. The kind of balance sheets we have started seeing today are not asset heavy. They are very asset lean, yet they could be valuation heavy. So therefore, you have to really look at what do we do? How do we pivot the changes which are coming through the digital transformation to convert them into new products and new opportunities? So that's one. Second thing, during pandemic, we learned a lot about flexible planning and budgeting, right? We always said that, the planning or budgets at that point in time were more of a tragedy than strategy, right? So therefore, you have to be very flexible while you look at your budgets. Third, I think, which is very important, is you try and take a new look at how the performance management will look like, and your own skill set has to move towards that. You have to really look at what are the matrices that you're looking at, and these matrices have to be around the customers, around products, and around people, more than a very limited and in a frame sense of only finance numbers. So you have to go beyond those numbers. So that's something I really think the digital CFO will have to do. So that was one. And second, of course, to enable this change, the CFOs will have to accelerate the digital finance function. So which means basically, number one, you have to really look at all the activities that you're doing. You look at what are the redundancies. You look at what are the repetitive tasks. And you have to work in a way so that you can free up the capacity. You reduce the waste. You reduce the redundancy. So that's number one. Two, I was just reading in one of the reports that in 2019 or 2020, almost about $1.3 trillion had been invested in digital transformation in the businesses. And out of that, 0.9 trillion did not deliver value. So you have to really think of how do you invest in finance technology, in which finance technology, so that you can deliver value. So a great focus on delivering value would absolutely be very, very important. And then you have to have the right kind of skill set to perform those complex analysis and things like that. That means you need the right kind of people. You have to hire, you have to train, you have to retain the digital skills in finance. And there would be few areas which are not typically finance. So I talk of areas where the analytics will have to come in, and you have to really see how do you keep those kind of talents alive. I've seen some engineering people coming into finance departments as well, and they are working to look at data. How do you do the data science for that matter? So you can see data science people working with finance teams. In our team, we have a data science person. So you have to take a very fresh look at the kind of skills that you need in finance. And of course, as far as technologies are concerned, of course, you go to cloud adoption or data analytics tools. I've come across some wonderful, data analytic tools, which are like no code, solutions. So your dependence on the IT function reduces considerably. So you can write in plain English. Currently in one of our companies, we are adopting this and we are implementing this. It's a startup, very small company, but it's got some wonderful, product. So you have to really come around and look at how do you accelerate the business and how do you accelerate the digital finance function. So that's how CFOs will have to really look at this entire digital transformation.
Well, that's actually very nicely put together. And I must say that while digital transformation is a work in progress, and we're still on that journey, of course, accelerated over the past 2 years than what it was traditionally, we've seen the overarching role of a CFO change, like you just mentioned, from being somebody who used to just handle budgets to becoming somebody who's planning capacity and matching the right kind of skills in terms of digital skills and non-traditional skills as we speak of. What do you think that a company's growth would depending on investments in innovation, and what would the shareholders want in terms of short-term profitability or dividends or capital planning? So what is a balanced strategy while walking on that very fine line?
So I think this is very important, question, that not only you have to be getting the technical skills, but also the soft skills, that are required to communicate this strategy to stakeholders, right? It is very, very important today that you invest in innovation. We talk about innovation. We talk about, technologies and looking at business which can give us what we say profitable growth, right? How do you communicate this in a very balanced way to stakeholders? That is absolutely very, very necessary. So you need to have an agile approach in your digital strategy, which will give you that, advantage. And if you have that agility, then that agility for converting from idea to hypothesis, tests, results, and insights, you have to dare to try and fail, but fail fast, get up and run again. So we always talked about, failing is more like falling, so you just get up and start running once again. Therefore, that is very, very important. It is very important to tell stakeholders that the disruptive tech cycle is there for us. So either you have to disrupt or get disrupted. Either you disrupt yourself, right? Or otherwise somebody will disrupt you. So therefore, that is very important. The other thing which I find, which is very important to be communicated both internally and externally as well, is the customer view. The shift of view from ROI to ROE, as we say, so from return on investment to return on experience of the customer, experience of the employees, and that in turn will lead to a better ROI. So we have to truly understand and communicate that the future is now. Future is here. You cannot shut your eyes. You'll have to prioritize digital transformation. It is absolutely very, very crucial that you make bold moves. You do not let the crisis go waste. There was a very good Bain study that I sometimes have given example of, which talked about 2008 inferences from 2008 financial crisis. So there were about 3,500 odd companies which they looked at their performance from 2008 to 2017. And they tried to see how did the companies perform. And they looked at companies which had taken bold moves they had invested in new technologies, new businesses, new ideas, versus the companies which they just trudged along, so to say. So the companies that they say there were about 400 odd companies which had invested in ideas, technologies, new businesses, and made bold moves, as they said. And they went on with a CAGR of about 15% versus 5% by laggards, that's what they called them. So you'll have to really see that in these kind of times, unless you identify the opportunities coming out of these challenges, and these opportunities today you can capture only through these digital transformation. So that communication is absolutely very, very important.
That's what has been happening over the past few years. Actually, not just few years, but past some time that we've been witnessing. And having said that, we've seen that today CFOs are increasingly taking on an enterprise-wide role of a strategist. A person who can take advantage of technology, leveraging it, adopting it at the right places to look at the big picture, or even zoom into the picture as and when required. What would your take be on adopting the right kind of technology based on balancing innovation, business outcomes, and of course, driving it in a fiscally prudent manner?
I think that's a wonderful, question. So today CFO is, wearing different hats, or in my case, I say different pagdis. Right. So the role of CFO has in last few years, almost a decade, I would say, has changed slowly but very steadily. And now the pace has really picked up. So what is CFO doing? Today, they are, first of all, doing their traditional roles, which is their bread and butter, so to say. So I call it, a steward role, where he has to preserve the assets of the organization, minimize the risks, getting the books right. All of these kind of traditional roles, they have to really take care of compliances, etc. So all that role will remain as the bread and butter. That's the major role, that he has to really say. And then say his role as an operator. So he's running a very tight finance function that is efficient, that is effective. So that efficiency, that cost efficiency, that cash flow, that effectiveness of, the numbers, the reliability of numbers, etc. again is very important. So that operational role is also a traditional role, but which has actually gone up by multifold. So that's truly very, very important. Third is the strategist role, and he has to be a part of and be with and help in shaping overall strategy and direction of the company. And I say that, because CFOs have the best views of the company. So they are seeing it sort of, taking a very helicopter view as well as taking a very micro view. So they have both the macro view as well as the micro view of the company. And probably that is the only department in the entire company which is completely data driven. So they are talking about numbers, they are, thinking numbers, they are writing numbers, they are interpreting numbers. So they live in numbers, they eat and sleep numbers only. So that is very important culture change that we need to bring in the organization, so that people start taking data-driven decisions, data-driven approaches, right? So that's very important. And at the end of it, I always say they have to work as catalysts. So this instilling this financial approach and the mindset throughout the organization. And if that works, the organization definitely works much better. In this age of digital disruption, as we say, agility, innovation, these are very, very essential ingredients for any organization. And, I say in the recipe of success, you have these innovation, agility, etc., and a little bit of failure thrown in as the right masala, so to learn from, and that's where you cook the right success recipe in that sense. Your processes have to be goal oriented, and those processes will drive you. The fiscal prudence, the cash flow management is something you cannot ignore. These are the lifelines of the organization. So you will have to truly play not only at a micro level, but also at a macro level as a strategist and also as a catalyst.
And that's why you're playing both at the micro level and macro level and working on strategy. It's very brilliantly put, Mr. Singh. Thank you very much, Mr. Singh. I love doing this interview with you. Thank you once again for spending time with us and sharing your insights.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Mr. Singh. Ladies and gentlemen, we will continue this conversation in the second part, and I'm going to request you to tune in to watch that one as well. You shall find a link to the second part of the interview right on your screens. Looking forward to seeing you on the other side.